Hey, what's up, y'all? Tony Lindsay. I'm getting ready to I'm just setting up my camera right now cuz I want to have a little chat about what just happened today. I've been warning people about this, so I think it's time we talk about it. I'm going to put a link to this stream if anybody wants to join the conversation, you can. I think let me see. I think I'm connected on let me open my YouTube. On my Facebook, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you can find a link to the StreamYard if you want to join the stream. And if you have anything that you want to say, anything that you want to contribute, that's totally fine. You can do that. All right. So just give me one more second and then we're going to get started. All right. Just give me 1 second. So just come on in. Okay. What's up, y'all? I am your host, Tony Lindsay. I'm not really doing a show right now, but as you see, we got the damn, my phone is going crazy right now. Like, what's going on? But yeah, so welcome to We Need to Talk, the new podcast that is going to be having very real common sense discussions because we obviously need to have real conversations where adults can step into the room because our political environment has become extremely toxic and people are not engaging in good faith conversations. What we're doing is we're yelling at each other, we're speaking to each other in condescending terms, and we're really stepping outside of ourselves. If you have observed the way that the politics in this country have gone over the past few years, you've seen that it has descended into what I would call chaos. And actually, I would even call it wickedness because you have so many people who have been so horrible to each other. And I constantly try to call for levity and maturity in our engagement with each other. But unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be happening. Now, unfortunately, I'm heavily shadow banned on Meta platforms specifically. So I'm not even sure if anybody's even going to see this. So if you're on Instagram, hey, good luck. Hopefully you get to see me. Hold on 1 second. Jordan, you're making too much noise. I'm doing a live. Yeah. Or now if you're on Facebook, you're probably not even going to know anything about it. Like my closest friends on Facebook, they don't see any of my posts. They don't see any of my shorts. They don't see anything. So I'm heavily shadow banned. I'm part of that community of people who have been trying to spread truth and who have been just simply trying to offer salient opinions in the public discourse, adding those sorts of opinions to the public discourse. But of course, when you do so, you get subjected to censorship if the things that you say fall outside of the going narrative. So what we aim to do with this podcast, we need to talk, is we want to set an environment where people feel comfortable offering their real opinions. But of course, unfortunately, these social media platforms don't allow you to engage in authentic opinion sharing. So give me 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that. So anyway, what I want to do is create a new environment where we can have real conversations with each other. So what I want to talk about right now is we all saw that there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And I can't say that it came by surprise because I've been kind of postulating this. I've predicted this. I mean, where else could things go? We've watched Democrats engage in a lot of fear mongering. The moment anytime Donald Trump announces that he's going to run, that's just what happens. I mean, we saw it throughout his entire presidency. Now, you don't have to be a fan of Donald Trump in order to recognize the lawfare that has been going on against him in trying to prosecute him. You also don't have to be a fan of Donald Trump in order to want a free and fair election process. And what I've been seeing is a lot of people who have been cheerleading the cheating, that has been taking place on behalf of the Democratic Party. And now there's been a lot of, you know, I kind of saw the boiling point coming. So Trump was at a rally today, and gunshots were reportedly fired, and he was hit. Now, I watched it. I watched the clip. I'm going to show it to you guys, but let me just read a little bit from this article so you guys know. For those of you who don't know what happened, I'm just going to share this with you so you can see it. Oh, and remember, if you guys want to join, you can join. I shared the link on my Facebook page, and I also shared the link on the YouTube. Okay, so if you're watching me live on YouTube or if you're watching me live on Facebook, you can come in and join this conversation. All right, so I'm going to share that screen. Yeah, okay, this is it. I think this is it. Yep. All right. So, oh no, 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 wrong one, wrong one. Hold on. But yeah, look, I'll show it to you. You see Donald Trump looks like he got shot in the air. He got grazed in the air. But let me show you the actual article. It is by people. All right, let's try that one more time. Boom, here we go. All right, so as you guys see the report here, at the Trump rally, at least one bystander is reported dead. Okay, and also the shooter is, of course, dead. It says the former president was speaking at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th when the incident occurred. Former President Donald Trump was rushed off the stage at the rally on Saturday, which is today, after loud bangs were heard. Immediately, many likened the sounds to gunshots, and the former president appeared to have blood running down his face as he was escorted away by Secret Service. Trump was mid-speech when the incident occurred. Footage taken at the event and shared on social media show the former president turn toward the noise and briefly grab his ear before Secret Service agents rushed the stage and surrounded him. Yeah, you saw him like grab his ear and kind of like and wince and then kind of drop down. It was later reported that Trump was grazed by gunfire and at least one bystander is dead, as well as the suspected gunman. And then blah, blah, blah. Keep reading for updates. Here's the now immediately you got all the former presidents, they're issuing their statements. There's no place for political violence. Bush says, Laura and I are grateful that President Trump is safe following the cowardly attack on his life. And we commend the men and women of Secret Service, blah, blah, blah. And Obama says, there is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Democracy, okay. Although we don't yet know exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. Now you got Biden. He's grateful that Trump is safe. I'm not really interested in reading that. Okay, so we got to talk about this, y'all, because we have reached a boiling point in American politics. We have lost all civility in our politics, and things are getting way out of control. And we have to speak in terms of accountability because we have not been holding ourselves accountable for our behavior and how we have been contributing to this extremely toxic and harmful political environment. Okay? Now, we have to get out of the practice of labeling people who think differently from us and basically deciding that they are an enemy or somehow a bad person because they don't share your point of view. And one of the most disheartening things about the discourse today is that whenever you try to enlighten someone to a new perspective or something that they just haven't been paying attention to, what happens is that they immediately either retract into a shell or a bubble in order to shield themselves from the opinion that you are trying to share them with, or they attack you. They attack you as being a bad person, as being judgmental, as being a right winger. And that's a very interesting thing because over some time now, people have been continuously calling me as an insult, you're a right winger. Why don't you just say you're a Trump supporter and get it over with? Because I'm not a Trump supporter. Am I going to vote for Trump this election? Yeah, most likely yes. It's a very likely yes, absolutely. Why? Because the party that I've committed my votes to for my entire life has turned into a bunch of maniacs, a bunch of lunatics. And the sad thing is that there's so many people from my community, the Black community, who just either seem afraid to admit that, which could be just cognitive dissonance from investing so much of yourselves and what you thought was truth for so long into this party, just to realize that everything that you've invested in has been a lie. Or it could also be an element of miseducation and excessive emotionalism, because unfortunately one of the easiest ways to target the Black community has always been through emotionalism, and that's how they usually get you to vote. Unfortunately, every other group, they vote as a block, they vote based upon interest, they vote based upon policies. But for some reason, the Black community has always been the political football, primarily of the Democrat Party, but overall in politics. And we have to be able to acknowledge that. Now, one of the tough things about speaking publicly about these issues is not only the aggressive censorship campaign that people like myself are subjected to, but it's also the level of ignorance that we often encounter when we're trying to engage in reasonable conversations with people in order to explain to them why they have they most likely have uh, been mistaken in their point of view. But we've created an environment, even in schools today, where we are no longer allowed to question the going narrative, lest we be deemed some type of extremist and or radical. And what's crazy to me is that nowadays people who have what I have always grown up to understand and know as common sense perspectives are now labeled radical or hateful. So to me, that is indicative of a certain level of mental illness that we have entered into. It's like this mass psychosis that we have entered into in our entire social environment. And there's a couple of things that I want to share with you, because there were a few talking points that I wanted to go over, because it's like the political environment right now is so crazy. And I think a lot of people are missing the point. You have a lot of Black folks, a lot of Black folks, whether it be people in the mainstream media, people in the civil rights community, people who are, who we deem as uh, esteemed in academia. So many of them regurgitate these legacy media talking points that are easily proven false. This morning I woke up and I saw a Snopes article about that Project 2025 thing, right? And it was a fact checker, because Snopes is for fact checking. I read that Snopes article and I literally debunked it within minutes reading it. So the fact checkers, and you know what? I'm going to do a video where I'm going to take that Snopes article and I'm going to read it. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you exactly where they obfuscated and where they mischaracterized certain statements and then presented it to you in the end as truth. So we don't realize the level of emotional, primarily emotional and intellectual manipulation that we are undergoing through a heavily propagandized media apparatus. And we have to acknowledge that. And the only way that we can acknowledge that is by reaching out across the aisle and speaking to people who we have been taught not to like, people who don't think like us, people who we have been told are the enemy. And what's crazy is we all have a shared enemy, but it's not your next door neighbor. It's not your coworker who has a different political point of view, or your neighbor down the street. We need to create an environment where we reconnect with the with with each other, with your neighbors, with the voting public, not the apparatus that has been set up that keeps us all divided. Now, as a black man in this country, I completely understand what lawfare is in this country. I understand systemic racism. I understand injustice, oppression. I understand economic injustice. And what I'm saying to you, and what black people, and this is a message to white people, not just Democrats, but conservatives, Republicans as well. Black folks have been warning you people for a hell of a long time that all of the injustice that you have turned a blind eye to that we experience, sooner or later, it was about to visit you. And we saw that. We've been really seeing that and feeling that over the past, let's say, probably 12 years. Yes, even since Obama, since before Obama, since right after the crash, we've all been under an extreme amount of economic pressure. But unfortunately, as black people, we are always the ones who get disproportionate results, suffering, as opposed to everyone else. But no one cares until it starts to affect them. And I've always said for the longest time, racism exists. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But one thing that I've always said is that black people and poor white people have so much more in common than they are willing to acknowledge. But unfortunately, poor white people have been conditioned to see their suffering as it's acceptable as long as I'm not one of those people, as long as I'm not black. Let's be real, because we live in a caste system where the hue of your skin often determines the amount of available opportunities that are afforded to you, even as far as your living conditions within your community. That's just what it is. And the problem that I have with the people on the so-called right is that you all are so hostile to acknowledging the realities of systemic racism in this country that you delegitimize the many common sense talking points that you do have, especially in this current political moment. Now, as far as my criticism of the left is concerned, the so-called left in this country, because I don't really believe that there's a real left in this country. It's a neoliberal warmongering party. So many of the people on the left have been so brainwashed by this virtue signaling and this moral high ground standing that I used to speak in terms of we, but it's no longer in terms of we. But what you do is you pimp emotions, you pimp the pain of marginalized groups by co-opting their language, co-opting their movements, and trying to dictate what racial justice is. You try to remix our understanding of oppression and racism and diversity to the point that you have created within your liberal environment a permanent state of I don't even want to say oppression, but a permanent state of dependency, whereas black people are not in position to do for themselves without your blessing or without your proverbial pat on the head. Yet you dictate our politics. And so many of the black people in the gatekeeping class, the boule class, whatever you want to call them, you guys work so hard to maintain your proximity to this system that all of us have been pretty much denied access to, but you work so hard to preserve your proximity to that system that you often betray the communities that you purport to represent. And that is a major problem, because I will tell you all now, most of the talking points that you hear on these legacy media outlets do not reflect the mindset of the general public in this country. Never in my life has the political policies, the actions of this government, of our government, never in my life have they been so detached from the will of the people. That's a problem. Government was created to work for us. But we have created a government that has gotten so far out of control that it rules over us and it ignores us. We talk about elections, electing a person, but guess what happens when you elect these people into these certain positions, whether it's Congress, whether it's your city council member, whether it's president, whoever it is, when they do not follow through on their promises, guess what? You must hold them accountable. And as my friend Big K says, you must punish them. We're not punishing them. So where is the incentive for them to do better? What do we do with our kids? When our kids get out of line, when they do something they're not supposed to do, what do we introduce them to? Consequences. There have been no consequences for these people who have been continuously betraying us in government for our entire lives. And to Black people, let me tell you something. Voting, which is not a panacea, which is not an end-all solution, but voting is a quid pro quo process. People should not be entitled to your vote unless you get something in exchange. Voting is business. It's not emotion. It's not, oh my God, the potential dictator. And stop talking about this existential threat to democracy that Donald Trump is while acting like the man wasn't president already. Stop using this Project 2025 fear mongering when it is not. Now, does that mean that Donald Trump isn't affiliated with them and he hasn't had many members who were in his staff who are part of Project 2025? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. They're conservatives. Yes. And has Trump worked with them? Yes. Just like Joe Biden and Obama and every other Democrat president or congressperson has worked with the super PACs and those think tanks on the left that continue to leave our communities in shambles. The same think tanks that are allowing millions, like 12 million illegal aliens to come into this country and get flooded into our neighborhoods while taking away our resources, and they are giving those resources to them and shaming us for questioning it. Black people, when are you going to get tired of being emotionally manipulated? So anyway, what I got on here to say was that we have entered a new era in American politics, and it is a very dangerous time for all of us. And we must keep in mind that the world is watching. The United States has been a global leader, a superpower for many, many decades. But we are now the laughingstock of the planet. It is time for an adult to step in the room. It is time for the will of the people to be carried out. And if it is not, everyone who ignores the will of the people, everyone who engages in all of this undercover, secretive, illegal, anti-American activity, they all need to be held accountable, whether it be from Anthony Fauci, whether to anyone in the anyone who is behind this mass censorship campaign, the censorship industrial complex. We are not holding these people accountable. And I understand that many of us have this sense of hopelessness where we feel like, oh man, it's just too much going on. I'm just trying to survive. But that's exactly what they want to do. They put you in the position where you feel like you're drowning. And the only thing you can do is to keep flailing about for air. And you don't have time to focus on anything else. You don't have time to focus on them slowly siphoning away your freedom and your autonomy. You don't get to realize that through all the fear mongering, every campaign, every election, they tell you it's the end of democracy. And while they tell you it's the end of democracy, they simultaneously undermine your democracy. So when the Democrat Party is telling me, oh, Donald Trump is a threat, he's going to be a dictator, I ask them, well, what are the characteristics of a dictator? What characterizes a dictatorship? Do mandates characterize a dictatorship? Does mass surveillance and censorship characterize a dictatorship? Does lawfare, locking up your political opponents, characterize a dictatorship? Does telling people that they have no choice about what they're going to put into their bodies, or they'll lose their jobs and their ability to function in society, does that qualify as a dictatorship? Stop being hypocrites, because that's all I see. And forget about me. Forget about your political opponents. The world sees this, people. The world sees this. And it's an incredible testament to the level of ignorance that infests this country. So when it comes to these partisan politics, I encourage all of you, whether you are Black, whether you are white, Hispanic, Asian, whether you are conservative, liberal, progressive, whatever you have identified with, I would love for you all to identify with common sense. In fact, I'm going to create a segment on the show. I'm going to call it Common Sense Hour, where you guys can just dig in. I'm going to give you the factual information. I'm going to lay it out for you and allow you to determine for yourself what you are reading and what you need to understand. You have to learn to come to your own conclusions. You can take information from mainstream media on the left, on the right, independent media, articles, conversation, seminars, school, whatever it is. But it is your responsibility to take all of that information, put it together, analyze it, look at the inconsistencies, look at what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and use all of that critical thinking in order to form your own opinion. Because the only thing that I have seen to date is a hell of a lot of Americans who are defaulting their opinions to people that they deem as authority over them. So, and I blame a lot of that on the education system. But let's see, but are we these revolutionaries that we brag about? Are we this truly free and revolutionary country? Or are we just a bunch of slaves? And especially mental slaves. Don't allow these people to use their marketing campaigns, because that's all that politics are today. Don't let them use their marketing campaigns that are carried out by what I can't even call these people journalists, people who only serve as teleprompters, as mouthpieces for the state. We don't have real news in this country anymore. We don't have any real access to information. And the one primary source that we have, they are trying to regulate it and they are trying to control it in order to control you. Anyone who has control of your access to information, anyone who gets to determine what is true, who gets to become the arbiter of truth. So if those are the people who control your information, it is quite clear that those people control you. So anyway, I appreciate y'all. By the way, my website is TonyLindsayOfficial.com. I can't type it in the comment section of any Meta platforms because just my name alone is censorable material. That's right. The day that I announced that I was going to be leaving these social media platforms in order to create my own platform, I built my own website. It's called TonyLindsayOfficial.com. That's where I'm going to be doing the podcast, my books, website, whatever we're going to do. But we need to take our discourse off of these platforms where you are not allowed to use your own voice. So once again, oh, you know what? I wonder if I can put it. Hold on, let me do this. Because they don't allow me to type it in the text, right? So why don't we do this? www.TonyLindsayOfficial.com. They can't say anything this way, but my website is TonyLindsayOfficial.com. If you even relate in the slightest to what I have said to you today, just know that there are many, many more people like me out there and who are just as willing to engage in these conversations without being attacked and without being judged. So while we are going to have spirited debates on this platform, we're still going to be respectful. But, just understand that whenever you have these conversations on social media, it's a very volatile place. It's a very tribal place, and it's a very hostile place. But also understand that the majority of people who are participating in the comment section ain't real people. That's why I always say social media ain't a real place. So bots are a very real thing. And we knew that when Hillary Clinton paid $1 million, where her campaign spent $1 million to send bots at the Bernie Bros by labeling them as like young white men when black people were supporting Bernie out the wazoo. This is what they do. It's always about narrative control. It's about manipulating your understanding of what the public sentiment is. Because unfortunately, in today's society, we have become a people where we go along to get along. If you see someone that has 10,000 followers over here and someone with 5 followers over there, you're more likely to go and listen to the person with the 10,000 followers. That is exactly why they throttle down the accounts of people like me, of people like Brother Reza Islam, and many of the truth tellers who have been out there trying to warn you. But what they don't realize is all of these people that they have been censoring, all of these people that they have been castigating and they have been persecuting. Remember this, those are actually the strongest people among us. Those are the people who have the most access to information. Those are the people that show that they have the will and the determination and the fortitude to stand strong. Those, in my opinion, that's the dream team. Those are the people that you want on your side. Those are the people that you want to build with. The people who are called so-called conspiracy theorists. Now, are there a bunch of nut jobs out there? Absolutely. But these ad hominem attacks, this practice of labeling people who think differently from you as conspiracists or anti-vaxxers or Trumpers, even Trumpers. Like, bro, if I have an opinion that happens to align in the moment with what a Republican says, I'm not going to shy away from it because some idiot wants to call me a Republican. And if I have an opinion that aligns with what a Democrat says, I have no problem doing that. And I don't care what a Republican says. Please let go of the partisanship and think for yourselves. Please. All right. So anyway, I'm Tony Lindsay, and I appreciate y'all joining me. I don't know, maybe there were 5 people, maybe there were 10 people, maybe there were no people. But no matter how much they try to silence me, I will always use my voice. And I want all of the rest of you guys to do that too. Quite often we think that our voice is insignificant in the sea of discourse. But what the truth is every time you get that voice of reason that peeks its head out, that person who shows discernment, the person who shows a level of critical thinking that is above the rest. So many of us feel like we're alone, but the truth is you're not alone. The establishment wants you to believe that you are alone. And that is why they try to silence you. And that is why they attack you through these big tech platforms, trying to discourage you from using your voice. Don't be discouraged. Stand in your power. And always remember, at the end of the day, we all need to talk. Thank y'all for joining me, and I'll talk to you again soon. All right? Peace.